how your favorite shilling platform is going.
Yeah, so I've also got a presentation for this as well.
Oh
And again,
god.
thanks to Daniel Ahmed of Nico Partners and GamesIndustry.biz, because they're pretty much the best resources for these kind of numbers. And then the Nintendo financials, obviously. So Nintendo sold about 80 million units so far, and about 500 million software sales. And just to put it in context, that's already more than the Nintendo 3DS has done. And Nintendo 3DS sold about a third of a billion software sales, so
Okay.
they're
And just
absolutely smashing it.
to put it into context, I probably am about 1/100th of that those numbers.
Well, I mean, your number comes up next. That they
Uh-oh.
also have announced that they sold about 66 million Switches and then 13.5 million Switch Lights. So the Switch Lite itself is about to outsell, and basically because these numbers are as 31 December, I think by the full year financials, yes, it would have passed the Wii U, the Switch Lite by itself, which is pretty
The
nuts.
the Switch, more than any other Nintendo platform that I can think of, just has that thing of it's okay to have more than one in the household.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's wild to me because that's
Is it
just
okay if you're only one person though? I mean, anything's okay, but should you be
I
having two or
I
three
was
switches when there's only one of you?
I've got nieces and nephews, and they've got multiple Switches in their house as well. Like it's
But that's
wild.
because there's multiple kids, right? So it makes sense.
But that's what
You're
I'm
saying
saying.
per
for-
capita. You're saying per
But
capita,
Per
Mike.
capita makes
in
sense, yeah. But for someone like
historically,
me to have two or three switches, I
no,
don't
but
know. Like I feel like I'm a little.
my
Woo.
whole point with this was that in the past, you just have one Nintendo in the
Yeah.
house. That's it. You know.
Yeah, but also I guess, well, relative to people's income, it's probably more accessible. I mean, you can get a Switch Lite for $250. You can kind of go, well, I can maybe afford to get another one, whereas before
Well, I think it's
$250 relative to people's household income was higher. So getting
well.
multiple consoles was out of the question. Plus, people didn't have multiple TVs and stuff like
I
that. It's
think it's
different,
also
right?
the fact that it is the console and the handheld Nintendo now. It's in one. It's
Yeah.
essentially one thing. Whereas before you
Yeah.
might have a GameCube and a Game Boy Advance, or a Super Nintendo and a Game Boy. Whereas now
Yeah.
it's okay. We've got two Switches, so that they can play that game while the other person's got it plugged into the TV. They can go into their
Yeah.
room and play it. So this
Which makes
just
sense.
all adds to these numbers, which integot. I guess you've got a lot more detail now to go through.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And just looking, because their financial year ends in the next quarter, so in the end of March, they're now expecting the Nintendo Switch to sell 26.5 million units, which is just insane. It is like absolutely
So it's
insane
going
to
to beat the
sell.
Wii, which is
One for every
wild. Which
Australian.
is
Well,
wild.
no. So I'm saying 80 million is the current sold. So you've only got 3 months left. So the quarter. So you're talking about they'll probably add another 5 million to that. So that's 85 million. I will
But I
touch
think
on
eventually, I think they'll outsell the Wii though.
it's guaranteed to outsell the Wii
Of
at
course it
this
will, yeah.
stage.
Because the platform's still newish.
Yeah.
So,
So I've got up on the screen just some charts backdating like as if when the actual
can't see
console
'em, but
sold.
okay.
Yeah. I'll just talk to it. Like
I
so
know.
as you'd imagine, the PS2, the Wii itself as well, absolutely sold gangbusters, and also the PS4. Like the PS4, the pace that the PS4 is selling at and has sold at is in the order of the Wii and the PS2. Now, the difference here is the Wii, but more so the PS2, had a long, long shelf life, especially given that the PS3 didn't launch that well and it was so expensive. They ran the PS3 and the PS2 simultaneous for a very long period of time. So the PS2 was still selling, and also in Latin America, the PS2 sold like insane numbers. So PS2 ended up getting about to 152 million consoles sold. I don't think that the Switch has the legs to get there, but it actually is outpacing any console that's ever been sold to this date, which is insane to me. And that's not handhelds, but that's consoles. And just getting to like the Switch versus Nintendo themselves, as you know, like the Switch is just dominated compared to the Wii U, the trajectory. It's selling better than the Wii. And it's also interesting, like selling better at one stage than the Nintendo DS, but now the DS is pulled away again. So the Nintendo DS which also sold about 155 million units.
It's insane.
I don't think the Switch will get there at the rate that it's running. And then the fact that they've said that they're about halfway through their life cycle, and then just as like these things go almost like a hump in terms of like how they start to sell less. I think the way that the numbers are shaping up, you're talking about 125 million copies of the Switch, which would be insane.
Never
Now,
say never.
I know they recently clarified to investors that they're not about to announce anything about a new Switch model, right? But that
Yeah.
has to happen at some point, surely.
Yeah, well, you
So
don't know.
I
'cause,
think
like,
but I think that if that's the case, then I think they can get there with that
to 150 or 125.
to the Nintendo DS number.
Oh, really? So you're going
Yeah.
to 150?
Because the reason I think about that is this whole Joy-Con drift thing. I think will it's a horrible thing for them, but at the same time, I think some people just be like, well, I might as well just get the new model when they release
Oh,
it,
yeah.
and I'll just get new good Joy-Cons with it or whatever.
that's
However,
true.
who knows how the whole Joy-Con thing will work? But oh my god, just on that quickly, I was playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe yesterday,
Mhm.
and so I was using the Joy-Con when you take it off and you use it as a separate controller, and the single Joy-Con. And oh my god, trying to play with that plus Joy-Con drift on a split screen,
Good luck.
oh my god, and it was like, but it was good. I needed to be handicapped because I was playing against literal children. So
I recently replaced my Joy-Con actually. Well, replaced as in I was at Cash Converters, and they had a Joy-Con there, and I got it down for $40. I'm like, screw it, I'll take the gamble. Turned out it's okay. I haven't noticed any drift so far, which surprises me because after buying it, I'm thinking, why would someone just get rid of just the right Joy-Con? Interesting. But yeah, it turned out to actually be all right, which is quite good. On the other hand, sorry, just very quickly, I bought one of the adapters for the Xbox controller for PC. It basically screwed up my USB ports at one stage, and then it just kept causing my PC to reset the moment I plugged it in. Like it must have short circuited or something. It's really weird. Anyway, back to the Switch.
Yeah, look, the one thing that I'll say about what you said, Swinny, around them confirming, which they did on an investor call, that they're not announcing, I think the wording was, they're not announcing a new Switch model anytime soon.
yeah,
right?
yeah, they were
So
very
now-
clear. They were very clear about their wording. Yeah.
Yeah. So just going back, so Reggie Fils-Aimé, who used to be the CEO of Nintendo America, said they're not announcing any new 3DS models anytime soon. And then literally 2 weeks later, the Nintendo 2DS XL was announced. Now,
So
like,
yeah, I wouldn't.
I love, like, I'm super into the corporate life, right? You always got to be careful with these
Yeah, you're a
corporate
corporate
statements.
whore.
So last year, Nintendo in an investor call literally said there will not be a new Switch model in 2020. They did not say this time. And the definition of soon can mean like a minute.
Oh yeah.
Like that's just a reality.
Dodgy, though.
And
Yeah, but that's dodgy.
I think it's the thing that I'm actually starting to shape up about is they may not do like a Switch Pro. They may just do a Nintendo 3DS style thing. So I don't know if you know much about that, Mike, but the 3DS versus the new Nintendo 3DS, it's a marginal change. It's not even as big of a change as like PS4 to PS4 Pro. And I almost think that that's probably what they're likely to do. They're probably looking to do something where it's much more energy efficient again. Battery
Hang on,
life is
new
amazing.
Sorry, run me through that again. So I had the original 3DS,
Yeah.
and then I had the 2DS,
Yeah.
and then I had the 2DS XL. I think it was the flippy one as well.
Well, that's
but it
the
didn't have
new
3D
no,
anymore.
that's
that was
the new 2DS XL. That's different.
Right. But do they still have the 3DS with actual 3D on them? I haven't.
No, you can't say
Seen them
no.
for
They haven't made
eons.
them. They haven't made them. They don't make them
So they
anymore.
haven't made them anymore. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Yeah. So if they do that, and then maybe what you're saying, Swinny, is like if they make a Switch Pro in like 3 years' time, let's say, then yeah, who knows where the numbers could really go. And just going like the thing that I think is the most phenomenal thing is the Switch first party library. It is selling like people do not talk about this enough, really. Like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe selling 33 million.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, if they look, and the game deserves it. It's a brilliant.
It's a
game.
great game. It's a great game. And then, Animal Crossing selling 31 million copies in 9 months is bonkers. Smash Brothers 22 million.
Probably also benefited from COVID, I reckon, that one.
Well, yeah, they all have, but they're still selling at crazy numbers. Like the fact that the top 10 is on target to be at least 10 million.
And we look at these numbers as well, and then you just look at the fact that the way they price their games and the fact that they don't drop in price compared to other developers and publishers, and the numbers just start to get crazy there.
Yeah, no, it's such a good point because you genuinely could look at these games and go, they're selling them for $60. Like they do sales and stuff
most of the time, but even the sales are only at most 25% probably.
Yeah. And you probably, okay, let's just for argument's sake say it's $50 in terms of net sales revenue. That means that, Mario Odyssey, which sold 20 million, that's literally $1 billion net seller. And then there's 5 other games that sold just as much as that or more.
Man, their war chest must be just like overflowing at this point. Which is insane.
Yeah. So their cash reserves are in the billions now. Like
Nice.
it's they pretty much could have 3 Wii U's in a row and still survive. Like
I think
it's
it's
crazy.
really cool.
Yeah.
The only thing and please don't hate me on this, and I guess it's because I didn't grow up on Mario, is I wish they kind of went out and came up with some cool new IPs as opposed to just trying to rehash the same old IP in a different setting.
Well,
if that makes sense.
So just
I'm over the whole Mario thing, and I'm sorry to the people that love Mario to bits. It's like Star Wars. I'm just over the whole thing. I get it.
I just
What
love
about
that
something
when
new
you've
and fresh and
actually
different?
when you actually haven't played that many of the games. I think
no,
that's
I
valid.
played-
100% that is valid, but compared to like people that've actually played every games, like you'd think they'd be the ones.
Well,
who are
that's
sick of
that's
it.
the thing. You'd think they'd be even more sick of it. I'm sick of it, and I have the games, and I haven't even played all of them enough and properly. And I'm just sitting there thinking, it's kind of cool, but aren't people over the whole
what-
Mario thing?
Well, so
what's-
just on that. So this is timely. So Splatoon 2, which is like a new IP really for Nintendo, given that they've been around for 113, 14 years and 40 years in gaming. Splatoon 2 is only like in the last 5 years.
That's also about to say, is that the last big IP? They tried to launch ARMS.
That's ninth.
But
That's ninth, like on the list. So that's sold
Wow.
almost 12 million copies, which is insanely impressive. And
It's not bad, yeah.
I'm fully expecting a Splatoon 3 to come out, given that they're
For sure.
starting to
It's
wrap
a new
up.
cash cow.
Well, I'm not on the fence that some people are, like that they'll release Mario Kart 9 on the Switch. I don't think they will. I think that title is so evergreen, and I don't think Animal Crossing, they might come close, but I don't think Animal Crossing will catch up to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Because that still is selling top 3 numbers each quarter in terms of like a
But you
game that
reckon
came out
within this generation
5,
they
6
want?
years ago.
They want, but that's what I mean. The game's been out for so long, and it's a game that was on a previous platform. So,
Sure. But if it's
isn't
selling,
it about
if it's selling,
time they? Well, you're right. If they're selling, why would they do it? But why? A Toyota Corolla sells. Why have a new version of it every couple of years? Right? It's the same principle.
Yeah, but that's the difference, that people stop buying it over time. Whereas people are buying Mario Kart 8 more than they did
'Cause it's-
last year, more than
they
they did
are-
the year before, and more than they did the year before.
I know,
crazy.
but I
Each
also
year
feel like
it set its record.
which kind of in some ways makes sense. But I also think it's
No.
it's-
Can I pull you up on that? That doesn't make sense. The only
Well, no, it makes sense because there's no alternative. That's why to me it makes sense. If there was a Mario Kart 9, those numbers wouldn't be like that.
but you don't normally see
But
that
there
with any
isn't
game.
one. So you kind of have to buy that. If you want a Mario Kart game, that's the only game you get. Go buy that.
But I think it's the
So-
power of the game. It's the only games that have ever been like this are really Minecraft and maybe GTA 5.
It's also got a
That's
really
still
cool
selling
box.
crazy.
And I think when you use people, like, no joke, it's that might seem like a stupid thing, but when I walk into the shop and I see Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it looks great.
It's freaking cool.
It's
box.
like you look at it
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
you're like, that as a parent,
No,
that'd
but
be the one I'd get.
All
along
I'm
with the
saying is,
Switch, you
I
know?
think it's one of those chicken and egg things. I think the reason those sales are so high to me is still, and again, great game. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the fact that that is the only game you can get if you want that. So
No, it's
there
not. There's
isn't-
Crash,
if there was,
Crash Team Racing. There's a whole bunch.
yeah,
of other
but
games like it. Sonic.
yeah, but let's face it. You know, if no, I'm talking more specifically. If you want a Mario based game, then that's the one you have to get because there isn't a 9 in that
Anyway, I think
series.
we'll talk to
If
a
there was a
while. I think
9,
we'll talk to a while
guaranteed
about
that
Mario
would
Kart.
top the
So,
sales.
Look, like ultimately with Mario Kart, if I hear anyone who goes, "I'm going to get a Switch for my kid," it's the safest recommendation you could ever have in the world to get
Of
Mario
course.
Kart. And I think that's ultimately what it is. Every other game on this list might not click with people. I don't know a person who goes, "Oh, Mario Kart, oh, I hate that
Same.
game."
Yep.
And that's the
Girlfriend
power of
loves
it.
it. It
So
just works for everyone.
the last thing I want to touch on with the numbers, and then I'm done with this Prezzo, is
Thank God.
it's interesting around just Nintendo's history with DLC, which they've never been the biggest supporters of it, but you've seen it in this year's disclosures that they are making so much money on DLC, download only games. So the way that they blend it all together is kind of annoying. So they will count games that they only release digitally as in the same category as DLC.
yeah,
So like
that's
Kirby
weird.
Fighter
That's weird.
2 is like only came out digitally, so they count it like that. It's really stupid to be honest. And also a bit annoyingly, they count Nintendo Switch Online in the same numbers, but the amount that they're growing that segment for them, it's now making more money than the download versions of the package games. Like we're talking about the Animal Crossing and Super Mario 3D All Stars, which is insane compared to their history, where it used to be like 2-to-1 type of ratio that the main game will sell and then the DLC would be 50% extra on top of that. Whereas most companies these days, they make as much money through the DLC as they make through the main game.
I would. I think they're in the best position they've probably ever been right now.
Nintendo,
Nintendo.
Yeah,
financially.
now that I think, no, just in
Yeah.
just in general, just think about where they've been. You could make an argument for the NES days, but just think about like they're in such a perfect position right now financially with I think the strength of their IPs, with the install base of the current platform, and the growth rate. I can't think of another time when Nintendo's actually been, which is wild to me. Like,
Look, this is clearly not the best time that they've ever had. The best time that they ever had was probably around 2008, where they had the Wii
Okay,
and the Nintendo DS.
But
So
I
if you think
think-
about it, like the Wii was 100 million seller, and the Nintendo DS was 150 million seller. So
but
that's crazy numbers.
I guess for me,
crazy
the
numbers.
I definitely bundle it in with my personal bias about because I actually really didn't like the Wii as a platform,
Same,
and
yeah.
I think and this is very separate from obviously the financials, but I'm like, I when I think of Nintendo right now, they're in a great place for me as a gamer as well. Like with anyway, we've talked a while about this. I think it's time to probably move
Yeah.
on.
All right, let's get into the next story, which I'm really excited about. So